Today, PayPal begins rolling out its US dollar-backed stablecoin. Global X refiles for a spot Bitcoin ETF. And Brent Xu of Umee breaks down the outlook for altcoins as US regulatory uncertainty lingers. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Kate Rooney. Digital currencies on the decline through the weekend and into Monday morning. By noon Eastern, Bitcoin traded below the $29,000 level, and Ether traded just above $1,820. Meanwhile, Shiba Inu coming back down from a weekend rally. Okay, let's talk about some of the top stories. First, PayPal just launched its stablecoin. The company announced that PayPal USD is issued by Paxos, and it's rolling out to customers starting today. It's fully backed by US dollars, US treasuries, and similar cash equivalents. Users can use PayPal USD to send payments, pay for certain items at checkout, and transfer the stablecoin to external wallets. Today's launch comes after PayPal initially paused development of its stablecoin back in February due to regulatory scrutiny. Next, Global X is jumping back into the race to bring a spot Bitcoin ETF to the States. The firm refiled its proposal for a spot Bitcoin ETF to be listed on the CBOE. And just like many of the other spot ETF proposals under review by the SEC, Global X lists Coinbase as its surveillance sharing partner. One of the chief criticisms by the SEC when rejecting past proposals was lack of certainty that issuers could avoid market manipulation. Firms like Global X and BlackRock are hoping Coinbase's surveillance of Bitcoin trading can help quell some of those fears. Last, Kenyan officials have reportedly raided a WorldCoin warehouse in Nairobi. According to local outlet Kaha Watungo, multiple agencies executed a search warrant at the facility and left with machines that stored customer data. Kenya halted WorldCoin's operations in the country last week, citing privacy and security concerns. We reached out to WorldCoin for comment on this report, but haven't heard back yet. All right, let's turn back to the markets for our main story. Altcoins have swung wildly in 2023 as regulatory uncertainty and industry-wide uncertainty have weighed on investors. But what's next for cryptocurrencies not named Bitcoin? Crypto World's Jordan Smith spoke to Brent Xu, founder and CEO of Umee, to find out.
Bitcoin has gotten a lot of attention this year for its performance, the spot ETFs, and all of that. But I want to talk about altcoins today. Where are altcoin investors this year? What does the sentiment sort of look like for the space?
The way to look at this perspective is that Bitcoin is, in many ways, the index for crypto, and the various altcoins coincide with the price of Bitcoin. And you can see increased beta related to these altcoin performance. You can separate altcoins into different categories. On one end, there's different derivatives of Ethereum, like Avalanche, Polygon, Binance Smart Chain. On the other, there's L2 solutions like Optimism, Arbitrum, and a whole slew of other L2s that are coming out from the Rollup ecosystem. And then you can also look at alternative base layers like the Solanas of the world, the Polygons, the Cardados, even looking at XRP. And then separate from that, look at DeFi. So when looking at altcoin performance, you'll see that Bitcoin initially has its rallies, followed by altcoin performance as the market re-enters the space and develops strong conviction for a lot of these new assets.
As you mentioned, there are a bunch of different altcoins. There are a bunch of different use cases for these tokens. But I think one point of commonality maybe this year was that some of the ones that you mentioned were implicated in SEC lawsuits, Solana, Polygon, and the like. And some of them were even delisted from exchanges. How much is U.S. regulatory pressure weighing on these tokens, if at all? I mean, how much is that actually hurting prices, or is it just general lack of investor interest that's really directing how little some of these tokens are moving?
When it comes to regulations, it's important to understand that the Overton window related to a lot of these crypto assets is shifting and also being developed in many ways. Look at the XRP situation and look at how the ecosystem is handling this side of the regulations. We see that there's constantly a regulatory battle between discussions of whether a token is considered a security or if it's not. I think the key to figuring out this ecosystem is actually defining a certain set of standards, some applicable laws that can better define how we treat these assets from a regulatory perspective. You're correct that a lot of the altcoins mentioned were implicated. That being said, these are just initial implications. What happens further down the line is another consideration for how regulators and the projects themselves should be interpreting how best to operate in this ecosystem.
Yeah, I feel like the initial reaction from some of these rulings was that, like, okay, it's done, it's been decided, like we can all move on. But really, this is the start of a very long process, not just for appeals, but for the larger regulatory environment in the US. Is that going to weigh on these tokens, particularly like XRP or Solana or Polygon, who have maybe been caught up in this battle? Or is this something that eventually investors will move on from, especially if they don't see any movement?
I think Brian Armstrong tweeted this morning that there's no way that crypto or a lot of these organizations are going to officially leave the US, because when looking at broader market ecosystems, the US is one of the most important, if not the most important market to be able to operate in, because it really sets the gold standard for how different types of assets can exist in a cohesive ecosystem. Basically, the US sets the stage for a lot of these capital market frameworks. I'd say other jurisdictions have their own ideas on capital markets regulations, but as crypto becomes more mature and develops better frameworks for how it operates as a new form of asset class in the broader market environment, the US is going to be an important ecosystem to define the rules in and to establish the right opportunities and frameworks for how these assets should be implemented. And so, to sum up, I'd say that it's going to be a long battle, but it's well worth it considering the amount of access and the amount of users in the U.S.
Let's take a bit of an optimistic angle here too. What are the areas of strength right now? Is it tokens that have a very clear utility? Is it some of those layer twos or some of the Ethereum competitors that you mentioned earlier? Or is it meme tokens like Shiba Inu? I mean, that had a huge rally over the weekend. Where are investors seeing real positive growth right now?
The real strength is in fundamental platforms that exhibit strong characteristics of technological innovation. The way that you should be looking at some of these altcoins is that they're really like a call option on the success of the technology being proliferated in the broader ecosystem. That being said, I have seen the altcoin rallies. I have seen different meme coins develop a lot of attention. I'd say that these are somewhat lagging indicators. They don't really indicate direct use cases, but rather they're just a temporary buzz that happens in the ecosystem. Once the main blue chip assets develop the right infrastructure and functionality for the broader ecosystem, you're going to see more value accumulation to them. And I'd say that that's going to be the driver of the next crypto bull run as we approach 2024, which will be election year. So expect lots of volatility going into that segment.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the next bull run. That was going to be my next question, was what are going to be the driving factors for that? And ultimately, I guess the question for me is, when you're looking at investor interest at the start of that next bull run, is it going to head towards the Bitcoins or even Ethereum as the major altcoin? Are those going to take the oxygen out of the room, so to speak, and really drive investor interest before some of the other tokens?
It's very difficult to deny the dominant network effect of Ethereum, not just Ethereum tokens, but also EVM sidechains as well as L2 solutions. As we see more rollups emerge, so I was at EFCC in Paris a few weeks ago, and it was definitely L2 season, where different networks were launching their own L2s for the broader crypto ecosystem. And so I'd say that Ethereum is going to take a major part of that stage on the next bull run.
Okay, that's it for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow with a lot more. We'll see you then.